You'd think after the whole pool access disaster, HOA Karen would have learned her lesson. But no. When she saw people enjoying themselves on my land, she went straight back into neighborhood sheriff mode. It was midsummer, 104 degrees, the kind of heat that makes the air shimmer. I decided to host a private pool party on my ranch for a few old friends. Some veterans, a few local officials, and a family who happened to be visiting the area. Nice folks. Real down-to-earth. What I didn't know, and what Karen definitely didn't know, was that this visiting family was none other than the governor's cousins. We had food, music, laughter, and the kind of good vibes that make Texas summers bearable. Kids were splashing, burgers were sizzling, and the smell of mesquite filled the air. That's when I heard it, the screech of tires at the gate. I didn't even need to look. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. Karen had arrived. She stormed up to the fence in full HOA glory, visor, clipboard, phone, and fury. She pointed a finger toward the pool like she was identifying a war crime. "Excuse me," she shouted over the music. "This is an unauthorized gathering." I smiled politely. "Afternoon, Karen. Care for a burger?" "Don't play dumb," she snapped. "You're violating multiple community noise and occupancy codes." I laughed. "Karen, you don't have jurisdiction here. This is my land. Private. Remember," she puffed up, "the HOA noise ordinance applies to all adjacent properties. I've already contacted the authorities." I blinked. "You called the cops? On a barbecue?" She lifted her chin. "Yes, and when they get here, you'll be cited for disturbing the peace." Now, I'll admit, part of me was annoyed, but a bigger part of me was excited, because oh boy, the timing couldn't have been better. 15 minutes later, 3 squad cars rolled up. The officers stepped out, calm, polite, clearly confused. One of them recognized me immediately and nodded. "Afternoon, Judge." Karen froze. "J. Judge." Before I could answer, one of the guests, a tall man in sunglasses, came over. He smiled, shaking my hand warmly. "Everything okay here, Ray?" I nodded. "Just HOA business." Karen turned, ready to unload her usual tirade, until another officer leaned over to her and whispered something. Her face went pale, because standing beside me wasn't just a friend. It was Governor Marshall's brother-in-law, along with his wife, the governor's sister. The officer cleared his throat. "Ma'am, you might want to step back. These guests are part of the governor's family." Karen blinked. "The governor's what?" The realization hit her like a freight train. She stammered, "WL, I didn't know that. But the noise." The officer interrupted. "Ma'am, this is private property. They're not breaking any laws." Then, to make things even sweeter, the governor's sister smiled politely and said, "Dear, maybe next time you should knock before calling 911 on family friends of the state." Karen's mouth opened, closed, and opened again, but no words came out. The deputies exchanged looks, trying not to laugh. One of them tipped his hat to me and said, "Enjoy your afternoon, Judge. Stay cool." As they drove off, Karen stood frozen at the gate, looking like a malfunctioning robot. Then, in true dramatic Karen fashion, she yelled, "This isn't over," and stormed back to her car, tires screeching as she sped off. The whole party burst into laughter. Someone handed me a cold drink and said, "You sure know how to throw a memorable barbecue." I grinned. "Oh, I don't plan it. Karen does." Later that week, word got around town. The governor himself sent me a letter, half formal, half amused, thanking me for my hospitality under unusual circumstances. He even added, "Sounds like your HOA could use a little government oversight." That letter now hangs in my study, right next to my framed HOA complaint notices. A little reminder that sometimes karma doesn't just knock on the door, it dives into your pool. And as for Karen, she hasn't called the cops since. But rumor has it, every time she hears a splash or a lawn chair unfold, she gets flashbacks of the day she tried to shut down a governor's pool party and nearly shut down herself instead.